All right, my little pretties, what is up? It's your mistress, the Queen of Lions here, and today we are going to be doing another episode of Shadows and Pretties. Now, today, this is episode 25, and today we are going to do a fairy tale that was made by Robert Southey in 1837. And I am going to say that this is a very old, fairy tale story. It's one of the old ones. So I'm going to be completely honest right now, that this story is really good. I'm sure most of us have heard this as a child, when parents, read this to us and stuff. So today we are going to be doing the Free Bears, or Goldilocks and the Free Bears. Now, of course, the original version tells a tale of a woman, well, a badly behaved old woman, which we'll get to that in a bit. There are some other versions of the story that has been, adapted. There's like really different, there's like many different versions. Like there are even cartoons that even adapted this. So I can definitely say right now. But we're gonna get on with the original version in the bit. But first, I would like to say right now that Goldilocks and the Free Bears is a children's fairy tale, just like with the others we talked about, like Sleeping Beauty, Fox and Hound, Snow White, and etc. You probably have heard me talk about those in my previous episodes. If you have not seen any of those, highly recommend you go check them out because they're pretty cool. So with further ado, let me go on with the original story of Goldilocks and the Free Bears. So usually in the old book, there is in the original story, Goldilocks goes into the cottage where it was empty, and she finds three bowls of porridge, which who belongs to the bears, and the cottage that she went to belonged to the family of Free Bears. There was a papa bear, a mama bear, and a baby bear. No, it's not really a baby; it's just a cub. But what happens is Goldilocks ends up eating the bowls of porridge. The first bowl she had was too hot, the second one was too cold, and the third one was just right, and she ate it all up. Now, when she goes to sit on the chair, she tries the first chair, which is the Papa Bear's chair, but it was way too hard. And then she tried the second chair, or Mama Bear's chair, but it was far too soft. And then she tries the third chair, and it was just right. But then she broke the chair, so it's a really good story. So meanwhile, Goldilocks goes up to the bedroom, tries Papa Bear's chair, but it was way too hard. And then she tries the second bed, or she tries the Mama Bear's bed, but it was too soft. And then she tried the third bed, and it was just right, and she fell fast asleep. So meanwhile, later on, we see that there is the Free Bears return home, and they find out that somebody has been in their house. They start saying the lines of, "Somebody's been eating my porridge," and then Baby Bear says, "Somebody's been eating my porridge and it's all gone." And then the same thing when it comes to the chairs. They said, "Somebody's been sleeping on my chair," and then the Baby Bear later on, after Mama Bear says, "Somebody has been sleeping on my chair," we see Baby Bear saying, "Somebody's sleeping on my chair and it's broken." So when the bears finally get upstairs, they look at the beds. So Papa Bear said, "Somebody's been sleeping on my bed." And then Mama Bear says, "Somebody's been sleeping on my bed." And then the Baby Bear says, "Somebody's been sleeping on my bed," and there she is. So what happens usually is Goldilocks escapes from the house of the bears, and then she runs off into the forest, and then she gets back to, well, to her house, where, yeah, that's basically what the original story is. Well, not the dark first story, but that's what a lot of people remembered being told when it comes to that fairy tale. A lot of people have been told that version. So, of course, there's the free versions of it. It does exist, but the original version tells a tale of a badly behaved old woman who enters the forest home of a free belcher bears, or yeah, just like with the original. While they're away, she sits on their chairs, eats their porridge, and even sleeps on one of their beds. When the bears return home and discover her, she wakes up and then jumps out of the window and is never seen again. So that is the very first version of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. This is about an old woman. However, they did change a little bit from the old woman to Goldilocks because I think maybe it's just more, suitable and understandable. So, of course, the old woman in the second version was replaced by a little girl named Goldilocks. And for the third, for best known version by the original Bear Trio, so the whole same thing with the Goldilocks one. That's the second one. It's basically Goldilocks does the same thing, but we don't get the names of the three bears until the third version. They replaced the original bear trio with the Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Baby Bear, who is not actually an infant but rather a small cub. So, what was originally a frightened oral tale had became a cozy family story with a hint of menace. And the story has been addicted by various inspirations that has been adapted into some films, some operas, and even other media. Goldilocks and the Three Bears is one of the most popular fairy tales in the English language. So that is very very much something right here. So let me go on a little bit more about the first version of the story, and we will go from there. So the first version of the story, which is three anthropomorphic bears, a small bear, wee bear, and middle-sized bear, and a huge great bear, living together in the house in the woods, and they describe them as good-natured and trusting, harmless, tidy, and houseable, with those bachelor. So, of course, they one day make porridge for breakfast, but since it's too hot to eat, they decide to take a walk in the woods while their porridge cools. So, an old woman approaches the bear's house, and she has been sent out by her family as she is a disgrace to them, and she's manipulated, bad, foul mouth, ugly, dirty, vagrant, disgraving thing of a slint of a house of correction. So she looks through the window and peeps through the peek hole and lifts the latch, really sure that it's no one's home. So when she walks in, yet again the woman eats the wee bear's porridge, then settles into one of the chair and breaks it. Prowling about, she finds the bear's bed and sleeps in the wee bear's bed. So at the end of the fairy tale is reached when the bears return, and the wee bear finds his bowl empty, his chair broken, and the old woman sleeping in his bed, and cries. So basically, somebody has been sleeping in my bed, and there she is. Very familiar quote right there from the Goldilocks story. So the old woman wakes up and jumps out of the window and is never seen again. So that is the very first disturbing version of it. So of course, we do know that this was actually something, to be completely honest, when it comes to the story. So, with that being said, I believe there were some other versions with the old woman, with like the Goldilocks one, the Three Bears. And one version of the story, from what I do remember, I think it was the old woman breaks her neck or something. I think that was maybe one version that did tell about that, but I don't really know. But the latest versions of Goldilocks and the Three Bears has slowly developed over the years. So, of course, 12 years later, after the publication of Salvery Tale, of course, Joseph Cundale decided to transform the antagonist from the old ugly woman to a pretty girl in treasure of pleasure books for young children. He explains his reasons for doing a dedicated letter to his children, dated November 1849, which is the insert at the beginning of the book. So basically, the little girl enters the house and remains, suggested children to prefer an active child rather than an ugly old woman and a juvenile antagonist with this section of names, Silver Hair and Harlequin and the Three Bears. That's what the first version was like. Since the Silver Hair was in Goldilocks, they were saying her is Harlequin and the Three Bears, or the Little Silver Hair and the Three Fairies by J.B. Buckstone in 1853. So, of course, with lots of other stuff, Goldilocks' fate in varieties and many feelings. So basically, what happens is over the years, instead of the old woman they decide to prefer, someone a little young, more younger than the old woman. Like, I don't think that an old woman looks attracting, doesn't, well, not really attractive, but, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but, I'm just gonna say right now. So, they decided to prefer someone a little younger for the story, so that's why throughout the years they changed from the old woman to Goldilocks. So, basically, Goldilocks' fate and varies in many retellings in some versions, which, of course, that's just something I'm going to say right now. So, before I get started with the variator versions of Goldilocks' fate, we are just gonna say right now that the thing the whole goes around is, no, basically what happens is, the some versions. When Goldilocks runs in the forest, in some versions she runs in the forest and in some versions she's almost eaten by the bears, but her mother rescues her. In some she vows to be a good child, and in some she returns home. Whatever her fate, Goldilocks fares more than self-vagrant old woman who, in opinion, deserved to be in the sent house of correction. And as far as Miss Lure's old woman, man who is impaled upon the steep his stepple. So that's basically one version. So basically, they recast the whole story of the three bears has Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Baby Bear. But one of the dates of the Janes have been disputed, so of course they had to make varieties of versions. So in Ducklin's version of the 1858, the two larger bears are brother and sister bear, and they're friends to the little bear. And with this, arrangement represents of the evolution into Ursuline trio into additional three male bears to a family of father, mother, and child, which is another version. So an old Papa Bear and Mama Bear and a little boy bear. That's just in one of the illustrations that some people have. So, of course, this is just like my theory when it comes to Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Now, of course, there's other people that have done some like other versions of the story that they have done that over the years. They have decided to do one thing. So I believe in one of the versions, Goldilocks does get eaten by the bears, and I think in one of the versions that they did. So that's just one thing I could definitely point out. But with the whole moral of the story is that Goldilocks and the Free Bear story is a pretty good story, and it's for really good for, the child and, for anybody to, like it. So of course, I'm going to say right now, and of course later on, they describes Goldilocks as a poor, beautiful, and charming maiden of a woman, is man who could does not describe her positively except for her hair. So that's just basically, well, I'm sorry, just kind of had a brain fart, but that's just basically one of the versions. So of course, hers they have done lots of adaptations about it. It's like the MGM cartoons in the late 1930s included the Bear family, and of course they continue to radiate more with the Goldilocks Free Bears series, and they continued on. So of course Terry Toons also adapted the Free Bears in the same year The Wizard of Oz came out, but also around the time that MGM actually did that as well. So, and of course Looney Tunes, they adapted this as the Free Bears family, and they have done some other versions of it, which, of course, that's one thing I could definitely say, that they have done some other versions of Goldilocks. And of course, the Free Bears may or may not have been an inspiration by Jan and Stan Jan's Berenstein Bears series. I don't know if that's the adaptation or inspiration that they can be doing that, but I could definitely say, hey, maybe that is how they decided to, create the Berenstein Bears, but I don't really know if that's actually one of the reasons. But they, of course, in an episode of Sesame Street, there is a reverse version of the story called Baby Bear and the Free Goldilocks that was told by Telly and Emo. So, surprisingly, I'm going to say right now is that, well, Sesame Street has even done, a adaptation of it. So, of course, there is many versions of the story that's been told by other versions and stuff like that. So, of course, later on, we do see, well, I'm just going to say right now that there is, certain shows. And, of course, there is a little show called Goldie and Bear that premiered in 2016. And the tale tells after the events where Goldilocks and Jack Bear eventually become best friends. Very different compared to what the original story of it has, but I could definitely say the story itself, when it comes to, well, you guessed it, well, you kind of guessed it. You could definitely say that, when it comes to to, no fairy tales, you could always picture them as, sweet and, no harmless and stuff. But then when you get older, you start to look more into it and you're like wondering, where did this fairy tale come from? How did this fairy tale inspired and etc. Well, ever since I heard this story when I was a kid, I didn't really care about where the story came from. I would just really liked it because it was really good in my opinion. It was a really good story and it actually tells a really good lesson is, there is a lot of morals when it comes to Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So if I'm sure most of us have seen this when we were kids when we were kids in the in as a kid. So yeah. So, of course, the morals of Goldilocks and the Three Bears is mainly about the inspirations of one of the most popular, fairy tales in English. The moral reasoning of the story is strong between the self-concern, preservation, and transgressive social rule breaking. So that's basically what the moral of this story is. So, of course, we see now later on. So that of course Goldilocks was named for the child, because they decided to have someone younger in that edition. Now, I have to say that this book was actually really good. Like I've seen many cartoons telling about the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and even the books that they have done. It's actually really good in my opinion. Like I have to say, I remember seeing watching this as a kid. Like I remember watching, you know, some cartoons and stuff like that, and I have to say it's really good, but it's also messed up at the same time. Like I believe there was one where Goldilocks gets eaten by the bears, so I'm pretty sure that was in one version that they decide, you know what, let's not do that because they wanted to make it kid friendly as possible, so they had to make some changes throughout the years, which I can definitely say, you know, that I don't blame them for it. So that's actually a pretty good, exception and stuff like that. So many other versions when it comes to, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, they had to do a lot of changes and stuff like that throughout the years. And plus they really wanted to, make it more kid friendly so they don't sit there and scare anybody and etc. So anyways, with that being said, what do you all think about Goldilocks and the Three Bears and, the original story? Do you like the dark version or do you like the kid friendly version? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll like to hear your thoughts and opinions. And as always, I am the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so then you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, I'm going to be seeing you all in the next video. So peace out, and I'll catch you all next time.